This is Comic Picks by the Glick.
Hey, I'm your host, Jason Glick.
Hey, Jason, what do you have on tap for us today?
Well, we're going back to that endless well of content. I realize that covers like a lot of subjects on this podcast, but this endless well of content is basically the X-Men, because we're basically over a year out from the most polite mutiny that we've seen like in a Marvel title. I'm talking about the time when Jonathan Hickman had his major plan for the X-Men titles, and then everyone else running the X-Men basically said, wait a second, we kind of don't want to do that. We just want to kind of keep living in this particular setup for a little while longer. And Hickman basically saw this and went, yeah, okay. And then Marvel gave him Inferno to finish out his specific storylines and give some sense of closure to the run he was doing. And then in the meantime, you get creators like Kieran Gillen starting up the Quiet Council series, Immortal X-Men, Al Ewing doing X-Men Red, which is about the Araco people on Mars, and Simon Spurrier doing Way of X and Legion of X, basically focusing on Nightcrawlers' efforts to keep the peace. It's like on Araco. It's and also all the other people doing their own things, Jerry Dugan, writing X-Men. It's like on his own time, but still observing and respecting the plots that are being set up elsewhere. So when I say most polite mutiny, I mean that Hickman is still working for Marvel because he's still writing the Ultimate Invasion series about the reconstruction of the Ultimate Universe, and he's got his own Gods series that he's basically starting with Marvel. They're basically setting up through one-page previews. It's in various ongoing titles as well. They basically believe in this, and they believe in Hickman's ability to set up a new, all new, set of characters within the Marvel universe, which is kind of crazy in this day and age when you think that hey, it's everything in Marvel is established. It's and trying to do anything new. It's kind of like a fool's errand since everyone buying it is just as old as me and all, and we're all invested in the established heroes and all. But hey, it's Hickman. It's I'm totally in the tank for him. I'm gonna buy whatever he does. But that's neither here nor there because like these these new creators in the X-Men space, Guylan, Ewing, and Spurrier, they've been doing really good work on their own titles, and and in the case of Guylan specifically, it's he's apparently taking his run on Immortal X-Men to basically create the definitive Mister Sinister story, because Sinister is a character who's been around for decades, and while he initially started off as a child idea of what a super villain should be back in the Chris Claremont era, he spent the '90s just basically being mysterious and saying he had plans and dropping the hint of there's a third Summers brother, wink wink, and Guylan saw all that, but then made him into a fabulous villain who was just so enamored of himself that he just basically decided, hey, you know what, I am so much better than everyone out there. I'm going to make myself start cloning myself and make it entire civilizations based out of me, for his run. And that was a high point for for his for Guylan's uncanny X-Men run. And in fact, to the point where his his take on Sinister kind of became the de facto version of it. I mean, yeah, it's Jeff Lemire tried to walk that back a bit, but Jeff Lemire is a substandard X-Men writer compared to everyone else. Hickman observed Guylan's run and ran with Sinister's take, with his take on Sinister. And so when Guylan came back to write to Marvel to write Immortal X-Men, we've got a fabulous arrogant Sinister who is just he's got he thinks he's better than everyone else. It's he's not, and he's trying to keep that in check in order further his plans, but it's not quite working. But still, it's fabulous because when he's got a great genius plan, because as the guy who came up with with the plan for the X-Men genetic database that allows resurrection to work on Krakoa. It's like, well, it's like, he's got all sorts of genetic profiles to work with, including that of Moira McTaggart. Because one of the big things about Immortal X-Men 1 was that it showed that like that Sinister had basically created a Moira engine. Essentially that's in the sense that he could grow a new Moira using her mutant ability to reset the timeline, but then like sending data back in that reset timeline to allow him to like further his own plans. That's kind of like what he's been planning, what Sister's been doing over the course of Immortal X-Men, but it all comes to a head in the Sins of Sinister event, because now wait for it. Let me tell you if that hey, when I mentioned that Sinister has been has like been the backbone of the genetic database that allows resurrection to occur on Krakoa. What if I told you that Sinister had been messing with the genetics of that process, like in order to like further his own ends? Like, what if he had been secretly been like implementing his own like genetic cocktail to allow a parapersonality of Sinisterization? Basically, like whoever like would be resurrected would be like furthered with like their own like Sinister personality. So basically like said who basically like was kind of like like observing the idea that hey like I don't have to be a good person. I can be like the best version of like me that I want to be. It's like and to hell with anyone else who thinks otherwise. So that's what Sinister had planned for this, but it didn't quite work because, well, reasons. And it's like, and it didn't take hold until the last couple of issues. Well, specifically issues 9 and 10 of Immortal X-Men, when we find out that when Sinister finally managed to kill off all of the members of the Quiet Council that he needed to in order to make his genetic resurrection cocktail take hold. To that end, if you're reading this event, Sins of Sinister, you kind of really do need to be following Immortal X-Men, and I don't think it's a bad thing because it's been really good so far. But the second volume is where all the good stuff takes hold and sets things up. And when you get to the end, when you get to issue 10, which is basically the Xavier spotlight of Guyland's run, it's like it's basically like one big issue telling you about how you should be grateful that someone of Xavier's moral it's like a moral clarity, moral caliber, it's like is like in charge of his like own psychic abilities. It's like, hey, it's because of me there will never be a it's like a nuclear war on like in this planet, because when people when the like when the human rulers of like Earth like you try to hit that button, they will hesitate and realize that that's not it. But the thing is, like when you get to the end of issue 10, you see that Xavier has been taken over by Sinister, because Sinister has had that gene cocktail planned in all of the X-Men's resurrection processes up to this point. So here we are with Sins of Sinister, like the first one shot. It's like, which basically shows you just how badly things are going to go wrong when you've got not just Xavier under a sinister influence, but also Emma Frost, Exodus, and Hope. Basically, all the major telepaths of the Quiet Council and of mutanity in general, and also someone who can just duplicate their respective mental processes as well. What happens when they're running the show and just trying to let just running things to the point where they can do everything to the point where they can subvert everything to the point where it's like someone terrible is in charge. And even though Sinister was thrown into the pit in issue 10, well, that's basically thrown out not too far after as well, because the first Sinister one shot is all about showing you just how badly things go once these people are subservient to Sinister's influence, when they believe that like what they're doing is like the right cause for everything. Because it's not that they're just like, under Sinister control. It's that, they're shorn of like, any moral safeguards for what they're doing, to the point where it's like, Xavier basically goes, hey, it's like everyone, should be subservient to the dream. I just have to like, force them to do it regardless. And Emma is like, we should look out for the children, because like they're just like, it's like snot-nosed runny kids who just don't know any better. It's like in Exodus is just is like, hey, it's like, like these people are just like like just like don't know who to follow and all. It's like, and like I'm willing to provide that guidance, and like Hope is just like, hey, it's like I'm the Messiah who's going to save them all, and I'm going to save them from themselves as well. It's awful. It's like it's terrible, but it's also kind of like like fun in the sense that hey, you want to see how bad things go, for a for future timeline. Well, Sins of Sinister has you covered, because this is all about just seeing how badly things can go, but also, like, finding like, the fun, and like, like subverting your expectations as well. Because this is also like a an extension of the Age of Apocalypse style of storytelling as well. Now, I realize that Age of Apocalypse is like good long while ago. I mean, God, it's like it's 2 decades. It's like no, it's not over. Almost 3 decades at this point, but it's still one of the most significant X-Men events of the '90s. And when I say like significant X-Men events of the '90s, it had to have left a mark, because this is one where the like where all the people writing on the X-Men basically said, hey, you know what? Let's stop doing all this stuff for 4 months, and let's do like the ultimate grimdark future for X-Men, like to the point where like where Xavier died, Magneto had to take over, and Apocalypse saw his opportunity to rule the world. So that it was like it was definitely like it's a miniseries that left a mark, like to the point where like creators kept coming back to it. And one of the series that spun out from it, X-Man, focusing on the Nate Gray, like basically the purebred clone of purebred spawn of of um Cyclops and Jean Grey. It's like was able to have his own series for like 75 issues. It's like that was the thing, back in the '90s. They were a crazy time. But it's like that series like left a mark. It's like, and they kept coming back to it, both in like revival miniseries and other storylines, such as like the Rick Remenders, like Dark Angel saga, and also like stylistically, because like there was the Age of X-Men like event, which basically had Nate Gray once again, just like rewriting reality to the point where like what if like we had like X-Men without the soap opera drama. And even though that was like not as interesting as the original event, it kind of sets the tone for this one, because like you've got three of my favorite writers, Kieran Gillen, Al Ewing, and Simon Spurrier, basically rewriting or reinventing Immortal X-Men, X-Men Red, and Legion of X for their own purposes. So Immortal X-Men becomes Immoral X-Men, because Kieran Gillen is like a pun master like that. X-Men Red becomes Storm and the Brotherhood, because this is all about Storm's influence on the it's like on the resistance of this era. And it's like a Legion of X becomes Nightcrawlers, because Simon Spurrier, well, his his run on like Way of X and Legion of X has basically been an excuse to basically just write like a Nightcrawler focused series, like for for his own intents purposes. And he's also doing the Uncanny Spider-Man, which is basically like Nightcrawler posing as Spider-Man during this Fall of X era, because dude loves some Nightcrawler, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because he's done some good stories on focusing on him so far. So there you go. But then you've got these three series, like basically just, like showing you just how bad things are going to get like over the next 1,000 years. Yeah, That's right. I said 1,000 years because this series is also taking a cue from Hickman's House of X and Powers of X, and just showing you what things are going to be like 10 years from now, 100 years from now, and then 1,000 years from now. So, but the interesting thing is about this is first of all the fact that, well, turns out, because as we learned in the initial issue, well, Sinister is honestly kind of happy to have things go his way. Just working with these X-Men who are just shorn of like their moral scruples, and he's happy with that until they start acting on their own impulses, and that's when he says like, nope, time to like go and reset things. And then he finds out that, oh, he can't do that because in order to do that, he's got to kill the Moira that he's created like for this era. But he can't do that for reasons, because I'm not going to spoil that here, but you can probably guess like what's happened. And the 10-year arc is just showing you about how things have gone like kind of wrong, but maybe like people can feel like things are like still able to be fixed. But and even Sinister realizes that, hey, maybe they can still be fixed on his end, but oh, that doesn't work. In fact, Emma Frost, like basically like lets them know that, hey, it's like you're I don't think you're Quiet Council material anymore. In fact, I think I'm going to like go ahead and kill you unless you can like prove your worth to us as well. And that's when Sinister basically says, no, I can keep creating like genetic chimeras, basically like creations of like versions of mutants that have like multiple power sets of established mutants, and that allows him to like to live another day. But then you've also got the it's like the Nightcrawlers bit, which is basically like like see, because the things like Kurt Wagner's power set has basically been the kind of like it has basically eluded Sinister's ability to like successfully clone it like for his chimeras. But then we learn in Nightcrawlers that somehow it's managed to like work, and now he's able to create like a Legion of the Night. It's like a peacekeeping operation. It's like in this era in order to it's like in order to keep order. But that then we learn that it turns out that Mother Righteous and the spirit of vengeance that she controls, which is like a combination of like the vengeance spirit and Banshee, Sean Cassidy, like they are able to like like shake like the like these members of Legion like loose by using like the spirit of vengeance to scream. So that's the thing, and that's how things work. And then you've got the let's see, oh, the Storm and the Brotherhood. I see, Storm is like still like the prime mutant for leading the it's like the Iraqi council and all, but she's also having to deal with Mystique and it's like and Destiny's like their own plans as far as like how things are going to go. Because the interesting thing about this particular like diseased future for the X-Men is that not everyone like views this is being something a timeline that needs to be like sterilized. Like they don't necessarily like look at this and go, oh wait, this is a timeline gone wrong, we need to correct it as soon as possible. Not like the Age of Apocalypse was, because well, Destiny looked at this and saw, oh wait, this is the timeline where I can spend the most time possible with my wife. And so it's like, so I want to preserve this as possible. That's why she works with the version of Sinister that is aligned with science, Orbis Stellaris. And oh, I guess it's probably worth mentioning that this whole storyline furthers the like 4 different Sinisters version like of the character now, because well, that like Sinister is characterized by this big red diamond on his head. And while Gillen like like had a fun bit of referencing this in his Uncanny X-Men run, where he hoped like headshotted one version of him from like thousands of yards away, saying, "Hey, you shouldn't have like a target on your head." Well, apparently, it's like that version of that take on the character has been refined to the point where really, what if that diamond is a suit? You know, it's not just like hey, it's like it's not just like hey, Sinister has a diamond on his head. No, there's not one Sinister. There are four Sinisters. There is the Sinister with the diamond on his head. That is the version of Nathaniel Essex, who had it's like who basically is like like determined to like figure out hey what if what future does humanity have like if unless it's like pursues genetics as a direction. And then you got, well, what about like the Sinister with a club on his head, which is Doctor Stasis, that like Jerry Dugan like unveiled in X-Men. It's like, and it turns out that hey, what it Doctor Stasis is in what if humanity explored post-humanity, basically superheroism as the future as their future. It's like, and then there's the Spade, which is Orbis like Orbis Stellaris. It's like what if like basically what if like like humanity like if like explored pure science as a way to like avoid this like coming calamity of like superheroism like a mutanity and whatnot. And then there's the Hearts, which is Mother Righteous, the female version of Sinister. It's like who basically like is into explore magic as the as a pure as like the way to like avoid avoid like extinction of humanity. This like this whole storyline is also about furthering like these interpretations of the characters, and it does a good job of doing that. It's like maybe better for the like for the traditional Diamond version of Sinister, because this is like a storyline where it essentially imagines like, what if Sinister got everything he wanted, and then you realize that oh my god, like everything you're still fucked up. It's like, and I've got to like find a way to like undo everything as well. That's kind of like the storyline that Guyland pursues through like Immoral X-Men, and he finds some like some good it's like some good like it's like some good storylines through there. Um, the Orbis Stellaris business is it's like it's pursued through X-Men Red mostly, but um also it's like it's the idea that it's like, sorry, I'm getting distracted here. It's like it's like it's like he's got his own agenda, and then when it's when it's like distracted or destructed, it's like he pulls a plug on that as well. But going back a bit, it's like the idea is that some people view that this future is not one that is meant to be reset on a it's like on a purely pragmatic basis, because initially like Destiny like wanted this to be like the future where she stayed with her wife Mystique as long as humanly possible, or as long as humanly possible, sorry. And that didn't work, and that's played out in Storm and the Brotherhood. But then when Storm has a chance to end this timeline, she basically like makes the interesting call in the sense that hey, like it's not like there's still life here and there's still hope. So I can't really like make the call to just like snuff out all the life in this timeline just on the guess that it might be better. And I can buy that as far as like like something that Stormer to do, because she's been one of the most like optimistic and morally upstanding like X-Men characters out there. But that's to the like, the 100-year point. When you get to 1,000-year point, oh boy, like shit gets weird, shit gets dark. And I guess I should probably like take a special moment to talk about the artists who are called upon to illustrate these particular eras. The first three issue, the 10-year mark is it's all three issues of Immoral X-Men, Storm and the Brotherhood, and Nightcrawlers are illustrated by Paco Medina, who is a thoroughly solid like superhero artist. and a guy who just, hey, if I'm seeing him draw like an issue of like X-Men or Avengers or whatnot, it's like I can like believe that he's gonna like, do like a good solid job. Maybe not like exceptional or like like incredible, like something that's like stand in my mind as being like all time great work. No, but he can do like good work. And I think that he's perfect for like this kind of like work. Same goes for Andrea DeVito, who did the like the 100-year a mark for each of these series. It's like solid work all around, especially when like he's like called upon to draw. It's like Storm creating a intergalactic wormhole that sucks the world farm that Dr. Stasis has created. It's like in order to maintain like the Moiras that maintain this timeline. But if there's a standout for this particular storyline, it's Alessandro Vitti, who does the issues of Immoral X-Men and X-Men Red. Sorry, Storm and the Brotherhood, like for the 1,000-year mark. He does a great, gritty, dark version of this timeline. Basically, like 1,000 years, like the idea that that Storm had at year 100, that maybe that hey, that there's life here and there's hope. Well, no, there is no hope here. It's like these 1,000 year mark issues are like for these two series, it's like are just like grimy and gritty, and just basically like suggest that hey, like things have gone bad. It's like in a terrible way. Like we're talking like Warhammer 40K dark here, and I'm sure that like that was definitely like a touchstone that that at least Guylan was considering for this particular timeline. And and you're also not saying like that was the case for Nightcrawlers because apparently like Vitti wasn't apparently able to like churn out like that third issue in time. We get something that's much more conventionally like superheroic for the Nightcrawlers issue, which is all right, but it's like but I think the series would have been much better served had Vitti done that, been able to like get out that third issue. Still, it's like the art is solid throughout. It's like and it's like and it's like and it's really and the overall storytelling is really solid. Like like throughout. Like Guylan has a clear idea of like like what he wants Sinister to feel over these like it's like over these like three issues that he's doing, to the point where like you get almost get the feeling that Sinister regrets what he's done, which is kind of like what Sinister like feel bad about something? Nah, but yeah, it's like it almost like like it gets to that point, especially in the second issue of Immortal X-Men. But in the end, like you kind of feel that oh, like Sinister is just like like regrets this because he is personally inconvenienced by how things have turned out. But overall, it's like I feel the storyline is really good in terms of like just like showing you just like how dark and off the rails and it's like an X-Men future can get. It's like and it's like and I like seeing that what all the different all like the weird stuff the creators come up with for these arcs. If anything, it's like I feel that Spurrier's issues of Nightcrawlers are maybe not the like the most not the best like of these like of this run, because he's having to deal with a Mother Righteous who is just so incredibly smug and just like sure of herself, to the point where it's like hey, she's a villain who does not struggle, and I kind of have issues with that kind of villain. And it's like and also like some of the stuff he's doing here doesn't land as smoothly as it does in Gunn and Ewing's issues. And in fact, like Ewing like does have like a lot of fun, clearly, like setting up the different power like mutant circuits for this for the storyline. It's like they're like all three of them like have like fun like setting up stuff that you couldn't normally do like in an X-Men title. It's like from Gillen basically showing you that in the end Xavier is going to be the one to pacify an entire universe, and Ewing showing you that Storm is really the most powerful mutant ever in terms of your power set, and Spurrier it's also does some good stuff, showing you just how it's how a cult like mindset can just lead to really bad things over tens or hundreds of years. Like I said, even if Spurrier stuff doesn't quite land as well as I've seen him do in the past, it's more of a least bad case rather than just actually bad case. But it's also worth noting that when the timeline is reset, because let's be honest, we all knew that's how this was going. Well, it's there are consequences. In fact, we get a new character joining the timeline, someone who I know that Rob is thoroughly gonna be jazzed to see that she's joining this during this timeline, and also Mother Righteous gets a proper introduction to the wider storyline of this era, because hey, even if Sinister kind of wind up on the losing end, though our traditional diamond-headed Sinister winds up on the losing end of this storyline. Well, Mother Righteous, her plans are still going full steam ahead. Oh, and so are Moira McTaggart's, because she's still a major player. It's in here as well. It's and that, and things are just going to things are starting working towards hers and Orcus's ends. It's as well here, and then also the end of the Sinister's plans for the Moira engine that he set up in Gon's run. They're established here. And we get I think we get a good solid finale here, but it's also one that basically ends in leading up to the next major X-Men storyline, because that's how superhero comics work. It's you give them a sense of closure, but we're feeding them towards the next storyline as well. But overall, it's I really enjoyed this storyline. It's to the point where it's even though I read all of these issues on Marvel Unlimited, I'm likely probably going to pick this up in hardcover. It's once that edition comes out, because it's it was just really well done, and even the parts that don't quite land as well as I'd hope are still pretty entertaining. So I mean, yeah, it's the Age of Apocalypse style storytelling works, but also you've got three of my favorite writers in comics doing a X-Men story, and even if it doesn't hit 100% as well as I'd hoped, it still hits well enough that it's I'm thoroughly I really appreciate what they did here. They did some clever stuff that has some good twists on the established storytelling of this kind of storyline, and it's I'm very much looking forward to seeing what each of them do here. Both with Guyland continuing with Immortal X-Men, with Ewing continuing with X-Men Red. I mean, God knows, I'm glad to finally see him him getting more than 1 year on a particular title. And yeah, it's I'm gonna look forward to seeing what what Spurrier does with Nightcrawler and Uncanny Spider-Man. So yeah, I am all for seeing where the X-Men titles go from here, even if this whole Fall of X stuff that they're working into right now basically means hey, we're walking back to the familiar status quo of X-Men pre-Krakoa, which is disappointing. But at this point I kind of feel that these creators are going to make that transition back to the status quo as painless as possible. So yeah, it's something.
Yeah. So this sounds like a really good, strong recommend from you, and I'm looking forward to. Actually, I might have to check this out myself. So, nice.
I will say that if anyone looking forward to reading this on their own, probably could. All you need to know is that Sinister is just a bastard, and this is like the setup. It's where he gets everything he wants, and he finds out that maybe it wasn't what he wanted after all.
It's like an episode of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
All right, what you're going to be talking about next time?
Well, I mean, like that. I think that also depends on you, John, because if you're ready, I think we're ready to go with this podcast. To boldly go, this podcast has never gone before, or we're just going to boldly go into like the next chapter of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
All right, we'll make it so.
Yes.
We'll talk to you next time on Comic Picks by the Glick.
Laters.